when you start talking about the Cowboys are built on the postseason, when I was in elementary school, that's the last time the Cowboys were good in the playoffs. So to tell me all they care about is postseason is silly. I can remember a few years ago, they were 8-8 for a long time. And so this whole idea that they've this perennial star team, because they're in Dallas, they make a lot of money. Everybody thinks they're this great. They have not been that team. This was an embarrassing loss. And Mike McCarthy, the indictment for me is you went in knowing that was going to be your defensive game plan with Dan Quinn, and you didn't change it. So there is an issue. However, when you talk about winning 12 games a year for 3 years, you better tell me who we're hiring before you fire. Because I ain't just going to go, okay, let's go hire some. Let's make sure who we're hiring before we go fire people.
You know what, man? See, this is bigger than just Mike McCarthy.
Right.
Okay? So, what they all have to ask the question of is this, and every decision has to be tailored towards this. Do we want to be regular season champions?
That's right.
Or do we want to be postseason warriors?
Yep.
Which one do you want to be? And that is just not about we'll fire Mike McCarthy and all of a sudden then we'll be these postseason champions. Let's go all the way back. Okay, in the offseason, like right now, what we're about to get ready for the draft. When you start having those draft meetings and you start thinking, okay, let me think like 10, 11, 12 months from now when it's December and January. And guess what? The same thing happens every year. The offensive line starts to come into play, your defensive line, your size, your physicality. We better start acquiring some people who then we can start playing different ways when we need to when it gets to the postseason. Not the regular season when you're boat racing people and everybody's happy and you're jumping in the Salvation Army pot and doing all those different kind of cute things. But when it really matters. And see, this isn't just a Mike McCarthy thing. Okay, so construct the defense better.
Yep.
Get bigger on the inside. Get bigger at linebacker.
Get some linebackers.
As Mike McCarthy, when you're talking to a guy like Dan Quinn, you better be able to go into his offense and go, this game plan is not going to work. Because guess what they're going to do? They're going to have big people, you have little people, and they're going to run it up our you-know-what. So start over and bring me something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not Mike's problem.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. I know we're having fun here and we're being funny about it, but in all seriousness, like, that's the kind of thing he has to do.
Yeah.
Because as you're watching that unfold, and you're watching Aaron Jones do that over and over again, there's certain guys out there on the field for you defensively, they're trying.
Yeah.
They're too small.
Hold on.
So this is a bigger topic than just Mike McCarthy.
Amen. And I remember somebody last Tuesday being on this show telling my man Fox exactly how Green Bay would have to beat them. Only one way. Line up under center, go get physical, and you think you wake up with the answer being run the ball more. That's exactly what you said. And your response. And if you're Dan Quinn, and you show up to go stop, the only way they can beat you with 6 DBs or more on the field, 48 of 54, you have made an enormous error. And who was right?
And you know what? If you don't trust to put whoever you've got active that day at linebacker and D-lineman in the game, then go to Will McClay, who runs personnel, go to Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones at this time of year right now and go, get me some bigger people.
That's right. Big bodies.
You know what I mean? This isn't just, well, if you fire Mike and you trade Dak, everything's great. I mean, can we just stop with that stuff all the time?
I appreciate 2 real football men being very frustrated with a weekend of this soft football that you've been seeing. So my expectation was that they would not come into this game with no plan to stop the run, because the times that they lost were because they were getting the ball run at them. And I had the expectation that they would say, you're going to have to attack us down the field. And they started out, I thought the first series, they started out aggressively attacking the run with tackles in the backfield. Then Jordan Love, they had that illegal contact. They got a first down. Then they couldn't figure out how to stop the run anymore for the rest of the game.
And you know what's interesting? As former DBs, the secondary didn't play worth a blip. They were giving it up too now. They were just getting flat out beat.
Yes.
That's all. It don't matter what you called. They were getting
like
beat.
cement shoes.
Okay.
We're texting during the game. I was like, dude, people have been drinking pregame because they are confused. They have no idea. It was an embarrassment. That part is for sure.
They were in cement shoes. I love the way you pronounce that word. So
cement.
But we all know that the conversation is what the conversation is. And we all understand, Shefty said that Mike McCarthy was going to be judged, at least in part, by the way the season ended, by their last game. And their last game, candidly, could not have been worse. So if you're looking for someone who's going to do what Louis Riddick just said, walk into the defensive coach's office and say, this plan isn't good enough, he may say it a little bit more quietly, but Bill Belichick would do that. Does Bill to Dallas make sense? Yes or no?
No. Not to me. Like, I think it makes sense for us to think that adding Bill Belichick improves the defense. He's gonna come into the game with a plan. But I think that you and I talked about this on your radio show. There are some things that Bill Belichick, I think, could deal with. And there's some things that I don't think that he wants to deal with. Having that voice behind him, over his shoulder, that has more authority than him, being Jerry Jones, I think seems like if you have other options and you're Bill Belichick, why in the world will you subject yourself to having to fend with all that noise?
But you know what, though? If it's true, and it makes sense, right? Bill wants to go somewhere where he has a veteran quarterback who understands how to play the game at a high level, who maybe needs his kind of tutelage in the postseason to go, hey, look, this is what we're going to do.
That's right.
This is how I'm going to help you and protect you.
That's right.
And at the same time go, in this defense over here, Bill wants it strong down the middle, build inside out, defend the middle of the field first, all those things I've said on these shows for years. That's what happened yesterday. That ain't happening with a Bill Belichick coach defense. Look, if he can deal with the rest of the stuff, he's perfect for Dallas.
Yeah.
He's perfect.
Very quick final word.
100% agree. Look, Parcells did it. You can have the personality of Bill Belichick and go down there, and let me tell you something. He wants to win. He would win now, and he would have
no doubt.
And he would win now.
What Dan Quinn did as far as his game plan the other day, that also falls on the head coach. I understand we're going to make this about Dak Prescott because it's always quarterback-centric when we're talking about the Cowboys, and that's Mike's area of expertise, but he's also the CEO. And quite honestly, what the defense did was, look, that right there is unacceptable.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable, and that falls at his feet. So I would not blame them if they move on.
Let me, you know what? I'm going to change up what I'm sorry, Eric was producing the show today. I'm going to lean into something you just said. Because you just said at the end of the day, Mike McCarthy is the CEO. And I guess I would ask you, is that actually true in Dallas? And is it possible that because Jerry obviously likes him so much, Dan Quinn has been empowered in ways that Mike McCarthy can't tell him what to do?
Well...
You just made all these points.
You're right.
Philadelphia.
Okay, you're right. And you know what? Okay, so all right. So there's two different discussions that we're having here. Then, okay, look, in a perfect world, then Mike McCarthy is responsible for that. And Mike, like I said, when we made the jokes, when he came in there, he needed to put on there, no, this doesn't work. No, that's no to your game plan. But you know what? We don't know what's happening in that building, right? We don't know if Jerry Jones walks down to Dan Quinn's office or Dan Quinn goes to Jerry's office and runs the game plan by him. And Jerry goes, hey, that sounds great, man. Let's just, let's send the dogs after him, get the pass rushers after him, put the small linebackers in them. We can run. Who knows? Who knows if Mike gets undercut in those kind of situations and really doesn't have any authority? In which case, look, you're doomed anyway then. Yeah. If you're just cutting your head coach off at the knees and he doesn't have any authority anyway to overrule the defensive coordinator because you're paying him a boatload of money and you're letting him have all these privileges, then you're just doomed anyway. So in that case, you know what? Keep him then. Yeah. Keep him if you just want to have someone who you can control. Keep him.
Yeah, obviously, Mike McCarthy, we grade the coaches and we grade these teams based on the expectations. And the expectations for the Cowboys this season was sky high. Yeah. And then they met them for much of the season. And then they got here and they way underachieved. So, yes, this is a situation that's similar to the way we were talking about the Eagles. Everything should be on the table when you have an embarrassment like that. The first time that a 7 seed even won, you hadn't lost in 16 home games and you go and just get embarrassed. Yes, everyone should be considered for some sort of change or adjustment. Whether the one person who you can't change, we already know who that is. And he's been there for a while and they haven't had success in a long time. They need to figure out someone who can work with him because he's certainly not going anywhere, and that's Jerry Jones.
Really, you know what you're embarking on here? You know what we are kind of like talking about the dam breaking as far as an analogy, as far as discussions are concerned.
Yeah.
This stuff doesn't just all happen in a nice linear vacuum where it's like owner, GM, head coach, head coach reports to the GM reports to the owner, and it's nice and easy. There's so many people who get their hands in the pot here and start manipulating stuff. And when it starts getting that messy, you know this. Right. You know that a lot of times these coaches are having to juggle so many different things, so many different agendas, so many different egos that are totally unknown to people who are in the stadium watching the game going, why'd they make that call?
Right.
Why did they come up with that game plan? You have no idea how they arrived at that.
I think when that's the thing, the coach's responsibility is to figure out how to manage up and to manage down.
True.
To figure out. So I think it's hard. The worst case scenario was what we saw in Carolina. When we heard everything coming out of Carolina where people are going around the coach to the owner of the team. No, and it just feels like a disjointed, sloppy spaghetti of like decision making. You're not going to have success no matter how high your draft pick is.
Right.
And I think that's a hard thing to do when you own a team or when you're a general manager, when the owner shows up. It's a hard thing to do to not try to curry favor. And that's where that's why the head coach has so much responsibility. And that's why I get frustrated when people say, like, you got to get an offensive guru, offensive genius. No, you need someone who knows how to build and run an organization. You can't be locked in.
That's a great statement you made.
On game plan week to week
manage
when you have to worry about, you have to
manage down. You have to be able to do both.
Yeah, no, and there's no doubt. I would say this from the Dan Quinn situation. I would be shocked. No, just knowing Dan Quinn, having some type of, I would be shocked if there was no checks and balances. He's been a head coach, so he understands.
True.
He understands how that flows. However, I don't know, but I'm just from me, I would hope that would not be the case. But let me just say this: there is enough blame to go around for Mike McCarthy not checking this, but also with what Jerry and Steven have brought to the organization. And we talked about this in the last hour. The expectations that your defense is going to be something that they're not built to be is a lie that you held on to. And so Mike McCarthy, whether you love the guy or hate the guy, they've won 12 games. This was the first major failure that you've seen from Mike McCarthy. This was it. They should not have beat San Francisco the last 2 years. I don't care what anybody, they're not as good as they were, right? They should have lost, right? Maybe they had blunders, but they should not have beat those teams. They should have beaten Green Bay. They should have understood the game plan to beat them. So that's an indictment on Mike McCarthy. However, your quarterback played the best he's ever played. CeeDee Lamb played the best he's ever played. Ferguson is ascending, right? Jerry and Steven could have went and got a running back that becomes a real piece and part before the trade deadline. They did not do that. Look, I beat the freaking drum.
O-line.
Go get the O-line didn't play.
We talked about Derrick Henry.
Yeah,
That's
but,
right.
but like, as you look at this thing and you go place the blame all at the feet of one person, just
it isn't
be careful.
that. It
is
that.
not that.
And you know what?
And it's a one-game failure, y'all. Like I love that everybody, but I'm just telling you.
That's what football is, Jeff. Football is a one game makes or breaks everything you do.
Right. But you start over. This is the thing. When you start firing, who are we hiring? That's what everybody in Indy used to tell me. Fire him, don't play him. Who are you going to play? There are 53 guys. Who are you going to coach? You only got 4, right? Like say, so how do you, the whole idea of firing only makes sense when you know who you're hiring.
The one thing we should all remember going forward when it comes to the NFL, there is the regular season and the postseason. And when we're talking about teams during the regular season in 2024, we better always be forward thinking and going, when it gets November, December, January, let's look at these rosters.
Right.
Let's look if they can, when it gets cold in Buffalo and it's -4, -5, and teams line up in 12 personnel and just start running the rock, who has the backs that can do it?
Right.
Who has the offensive line that can do it? Who has the defensive line that can't withstand it?
Right.
Regardless of what they did during the regular season. Because some things change, but some things remain the same, especially when it comes to money time.
If you're Bill Belichick and you know him well, you know what he likes and what he wants. And let's just live in a world where the Cowboys and Eagles jobs both come open. The coaching jobs both come open. We do not know if either of them will. And he has his choice of them. Which one would be the better fit? Which one should he take?
Ooh. I think because of the court. Oh, gee, wow. I would, if I were him, honestly, I would probably go with Dallas to begin with because I would want to work with Dak. I know that right now I'm going to deal with really one person. In the end, I know that one person matters. Yeah. I know that one person matters, and that's Jerry Jones. Can I work with this dude? Are you going to – now, obviously, you need Will McClay, you need Stephen Jones, you need the personnel department to help you out. Because if I'm Bill right now, I don't want to go through all – like, it's almost like what Andy did when he went to Kansas City. He let Brett Veach really handle – it was John Dorsey before that, but he let Brett Veach handle the personnel. I'm going to take that off my plate, and I'm going to really dive into fixing this team. If he can do that, I think I love the situation in Dallas. In Philly, there's just some other minefields. If I'm him, I don't want to be dealing with.
Yeah, I would choose Philly if I can get rid of those minefields. So, like, maybe Bill Belichick has the cachet and the credibility to come into anywhere and take care of all of the nonsense that we know that most coaches have to manage. But if he doesn't, it seems easier to do that in Philadelphia, I think, because one of the issues, the issues in Philadelphia can change. One of the issues in Dallas is the owner. It's not going to change. And I think it's an issue. They've had success, so calling it an issue seems unfair, but it is an additional thing that you have to manage, where you're going to have to manage the way that he owns that team, and that's not going to change, and that seems like an extra hurdle to get over that does not exist in any other team.
Let me ask it a little differently, and I ask it to you because you make your home there, but try and remove this from it. He has already interviewed for the Falcons job. And when you consider everything, when you consider the roster that they have, the quarterback piece, which obviously at this point they do not have, the division in which they play and others, is that actually the best place for him to go if those were the three options? Cowboys, Eagles, Falcons.
Dang, man, you put me in it now. I would want to say the fact, but the best place would be Dallas. I really do. I want him to go to Atlanta, and I want him to go because he would change that organization, and they have incredible amount of talent. But what I would tell you is Dak Prescott versus what is he going to get at quarterback in Atlanta would be the massive question mark for me. He's going to walk in with Dak Prescott and with a team that is constructed. He's got a great wide receiver. He's got a great tight end. He knows he understands their offensive line. Here's the other part. Let me just say this about Jerry and about Bill. Both men have been humbled in the last few years. So make no mistake, Jerry just put Jimmy Johnson in the ring because he understands I blew it however many years ago. Both men have been humbled. You see what happened with Bill in New England, and from the general manager side of it, he has not accomplished what he wanted to accomplish that way recently. So now you're bringing these two guys together who all they care about is winning now. They're both up in age. They both want to get it done. And again, I think not only would he be good for now, he would be good at developing whoever's going to come after him after this 3-year stint I think Bill's got left.
Yeah, I think, Bill would want it to be very much so a direct communication line.
100%.
Look, I'm not dealing with a bunch of offshoots here and there where people are kind of like snipping at me here. Like first of all, I'm too old for that crap, and I ain't putting up with it. I'm Bill flipping Belichick. I'm not dealing with it. So if you can't clean up your line of communication, your chain of command, to where it's nice and simple.
And Bill Belichick has the credibility to pull that off. And I think as we started to address this a little bit in the last segment, I think this is the most important thing that we've talked about on this show in a while. And I think that it's important to know that you can't take shortcuts. And as a coach, you have to talk to your staff. You can't take shortcuts. We have success. We all achieve. We all get contracts. We all eventually become what it is we want to be. And that's the same thing for the players. If we start to fail, and you think, I'm going to take a shortcut by going to snitch on the head coach to the owner or to the general manager, we will not succeed. Bill Belichick has the cachet and credibility to walk in and do that on day one in the same way that you mentioned Pat Riley. But this is an important step to take for all these teams.
The Falcons may actually be the best of all of his options. You get rid of all of this nonsense. They are dying, desperate for him to win. Arthur Blank, I think, would let him do whatever he wants to do down there. They have a ton of good players. Trade for Justin Fields or some other quarterback who can play.
If he gets the quarterback he wants, then that's
then you're rolling.
So